Let's go over the excretory system. This is the second to the last system on the human systems review sheet. Hopefully you've been doing it. This is a really quick unit here on the excretory system. So pay attention, follow along. Hopefully you remember this stuff. The first question it asks is, what is the main organ of the excretory system? And although there's a lot of organs in the excretory system, we're really only going to focus on the kidneys being the main organ of the excretory system. You can see on the board a diagram, and we can see the what we could refer to as the urinary system, but the main organ of that is the kidneys, and that's what we're focusing on being the main organ of the excretory system. There are other organs that belong to the excretory system. Remember, the excretory system is responsible for removing waste from our body. So our kidneys, we're going to focus on that, and I'll talk more about those in a moment. Other organs that remove waste from our body are our lungs. Our lungs get rid of the carbon dioxide buildup in our body, so that makes that part of our excretory system. Another organ would be the liver. We really didn't focus very much on what the liver does, and it's a pretty complex organ. We're just going to have to move on from that. The third organ that we talked about was the skin, and the skin does remove waste from the body. But let's focus on the kidneys. So here's a diagram that we saw in class. When we look at this, we can see the main parts of that urinary system or the excretory system we're going to focus on. We can see the kidneys that are here. The tube that leads from the kidneys to the next stop is called the ureter. So the ureter is the tube that leads from the kidneys down to this organ here, and that organ is the urinary bladder. And then from the urinary bladder, the material leaves our body. Out the bottom, there's a tube there called the urethra. So those are the main organs we're going to focus on with the excretory system. The job of the kidneys is very important. The kidneys are going to filter our blood. They're not going to filter all of the blood, they're just going to filter the liquid component of blood. So when we learned about blood, we learned that there are four things that make up blood: red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. The first three were the solids that are found in blood, and the kidneys are responsible for filtering the blood plasma that we have. And if you remember from that, 90% of blood plasma is essentially water. So the kidneys are going to filter that. That's all they do. They filter that liquid component out of our blood, and then they remove any toxins or pollution that could be building up in that blood plasma. Once those toxins are removed, they're sent out of the kidneys down the ureters to the urinary bladder. But if there's anything that is good, it goes back into the bloodstream where it can be reused over and over again. Because our body is going to be very efficient. It's going to take advantage of anything that it can take advantage of, and it's only going to get rid of the waste that it can get rid of, or that it can afford to get rid of. Now, some of the things that are going to be filtered out of the blood plasma are things like salts. We all have salts in our bloodstream that have to be removed. They can become toxic to us, so those get removed. When our body digests proteins, it creates a chemical called urea, and that urea is filtered out of the bloodstream as well. And then any excess water that we have in our body regulates its water levels by removing what it can afford to remove. So the urea, the salts, and the excess water basically are what make up urine, and that's what's going to be stored in the urinary bladder. And then when you have to go to the bathroom, that leaves your body through the urethra and it goes out. That's about it. I guess the only thing I didn't talk about here that we do need to know is the very specific location of where that liquid is filtered in the kidneys, and the name of that is called a nephron. We have this graphic, it's in our textbook. Hopefully you have your textbook home with you. Nephrons are the very specific capsules that are found in the kidneys that are going to remove those salts, urea, and excess water. And the nephrons are responsible for putting the good stuff back into the blood and taking the bad stuff and sending it down the ureters to the urinary bladder. So there you go. There's your review on the excretory system. I hope everyone's doing well.